Hi folks, my name's Mike Smith, if you're not familiar with who I am, and we're going to do a video for you tonight. Before we get started, I want to thank Joe McGill for coming over and helping me to put this together, because as a lot of you already know, and most of you can probably figure out, I'm not very technologically advanced. So Joe was kind enough to come over and help me shoot this, and we'll have this for our next meeting. Well, as you're seeing it, it'll be our first meeting, all right? But we're doing this for the October meeting, and hopefully you can find some few things out of this that'll be fun to do. What we're going to make is a little mushroom birdhouse Christmas tree ornament. We're coming up on the holidays, and they'll be here long before we know it. And it would be, I thought, a good project for some of the folks that are beginners to get some tool work in different ways. And also it allows you to use small pieces of wood that you have hanging around the shop. The stem of the mushroom, I'm going to use some mahogany that I had. A friend of mine built a custom fence, and he had a bunch of these left over and donated them to me. So we're going to use mahogany for the stem. And I've got a piece of wood here that I don't really know what it is. It was a cutoff that I took out of something. I don't even remember what the piece was, but it's big enough. It's way too big right now, but we'll make it sized down proportionally to the mahogany piece. The piece I'm using is 1 5/16 square, but you don't need to have that exact. If you had some 1-inch square, you can use that and just scale everything down a little bit. So as we go through it, we'll talk about that a little bit more. It's and again, the idea is to use up small scrap pieces that you have around your shop and not have to invest a lot of money. The things that you're going to want is a block of something, whatever you have, to make the stem. This is cut just about 4 inches long, a little bit over that, and then a piece of something for the cap. And you're going to want some fishing line and a little eye hook. And I use a round toothpick to create the perch. You suppose you could turn it if you had something you wanted to turn it out of, but I find that the little round toothpick works pretty good. So the first step we need to do is we need to go to the drill press, and we're going to drill 2 holes, one for the entrance into the feeder and the other for the perch to get mounted. So let's go to the drill press and do that now. I think that sounds a little better. Okay, so we're at the drill press. I've got a fence set up to keep the drill on center on my piece. You want to have it fairly close to center, because if it's off considerably, it'll show in the final piece. But if you keep it on center and then put everything back on centers when you're at the lathe, or fairly close, it doesn't have to be exact. Again, it's nature, so it's nothing's perfect. So I'm going to drill a 5/16 diameter hole, and what I did on my fence was I brought the drill down, I got everything centered where I want it, and I clamped the fence down. And then I put a mark on the fence so that I'm going to drill the 5/16 hole about 3/4 of an inch down from the top. That's an arbitrary thing. That 3/4 is whatever you think looks good. So, but I'm going to use that for this one, and we'll see how it comes out. So I'm going to drill, since I'm setting up and I'm going to do more of these things down the road, I'm going to drill, I've got 5 of them here. I'm going to drill all 5, and mass production, as they say. So here we go. So again, all I did was I put a mark on the fence, I glued the block on, and I just eyeballed it on the mark that I put there. And they're all pretty close to being the same. So now I'm going to swap out the 5/16 drill, and I'm going to put a drill in that's kind of the same size as the toothpicks. Toothpicks tend to vary in size, so I'm going to make it a little bigger. And the toothpicks measure about 80 thousandths, which, if you want to get technical, is a number drill size. I believe it's, well, I can tell you what it is. It's about a number 43 drill. So, but it's, for most of us don't have a number 43 drill, so I'm going to use 3/32. It makes the perch go in a little looser, but it's so short that it doesn't really, it's not a problem to have it loose like that. And again, some of the I haven't run into one yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if some of the toothpicks are bigger, because they do vary in size. So all I'm going to do now is I just got to decide how far down from the entrance hole I want the perch to be, and I'm just eyeballing it about from the center of the hole down about, yeah, it's about 3/8 of an inch. So it'd be about a quarter of an inch from the edge of the hole. So that's what I'm going to use, right about there. And I've got a mark already. Actually works out right. I got a mark right there. So we've got the two holes drilled fairly close to center, and now we'll go to the lathe and we'll get it on center and start turning the shape. So now we're back over at the lathe, and I've got the stem of the mushroom in the chuck. I'm using a chuck with the pin jaws so that it gives it a good bite on the piece of wood. And I don't know if I'm going to have enough left over to use it as a jam chuck to finish the bottom, but that's something we'll deal with when we get there. So I'm going to just kind of eyeball where I think I want the bottom of it to be, and I think I'm going to make it about 2 1/4 inches long. So that just gives me, you know, a rough idea of where I want to be going. So let's make some chips. Just going to shape it using a spindle gouge. Again, the orientation of the grain is parallel with the bed, basically known as spindle turning. I'm going to get everything up fairly close where I want it. I'm going to start the car. Now, in regards to turning, since we're shooting a film, I don't have a face shield on, and I probably won't put one on. We're turning something small. It's held very good in the chuck. Obviously, if you're uncomfortable, you should wear a face shield. And if I wasn't filming this, I would have I have a full head respirator that I wear when I turn, but so that I can talk to you and you can understand what I'm saying. We're not going to be using that equipment today, but protect those lungs, protect your eyes, and protect your ears. It's very important that you do that when you're turning. So let's take a spindle gouge and see if we can get some shape on this thing without losing any fingers. So I've got it round. down to the mark that I put, so that I just kind of overall check my overall length of it, and I think that's going to work out pretty good. So I'm going to face off the end, clean that up, and then we'll drill the hole, and then we'll finish the final shaping of the outside. So I did just a nice clean cut real quick. This end is going to be buried up inside the cap, so you're not going to see it anyway. But I just wanted to get any torn grain or any imperfections that might be there that might cause trouble with assembling the two parts together. So we've got a nice flat surface. Now, I don't know exactly how big I'm going to finish the diameter, but at this point I guess I need to decide that. So the outside diameter is going to end up being about, well, we're going to shoot for about 1 1/8 inches. Actually, we're going to shoot for 1 inch. And the idea is to make this as light as possible. Hopefully it's going to hang on a Christmas tree branch, and so you want to have it as light as possible. So I'm going to finish the outside diameter at about 1 inch. So I'm going to drill a 3/4 inch hole in there. And actually, I think I might drill it 5/8. That way they will have a little more shoulder inside to push up against. So let me grab a 5/8 drill and we'll pop a hole in there. So I've grabbed a Forstner bit. I'm going to pop the hole in there and take out as much material as I can just to get it as light as I can. Now I'm going to drill down just a little bit beyond that hole. I'm going to determine my depth now by, my overall length of the stem is going to be about 2 1/4. So I'm going to drill that down about 1 7/8 inches. Just to give me a little flexibility in that bottom when I get there. So let's put a mark on the drill so that we can see where 1 7/8 inches is going to be, and we're going to eyeball it right about right there. I always slow down when I'm drilling because the faster you go, the more heat you're generating, and I always drill somewhere around, that's about 500 RPM. If you have a sharp drill, it won't wander, but if your drill is getting dull at all, it'll wander around on you. Another thing you can do when you're drilling is if you take your tailstock and the quill and roll the handle around 1 revolution, you can figure out how far it goes, and then just you say you want to drill a 1 inch hole and it moves 1/8 of an inch, you got to go 8 revolutions on the handle. That's for another day. So the holes went through, the hole is in there, and the holes that I put through the side met up with it. I was kind of worried about that. I wasn't sure I had those deep enough, but they came out just the way I wanted them to. So I'm in, maybe not quite as deep as I want to be, so I'm going to just go a little bit more. Again, it's just to get some weight out of it. 1, 2, that's good. Good enough. Okay, so now we're going to do some final shaping. This is always the fun part. So I'm going to shape the outside, create what I want. I want to have it smaller up here than down here with a little bit of a bulbous shape to it. And, you know, hopefully it's going to look like the stem on a mushroom. It might look like a who knows what. But I'm going to grab a detail gouge and go at it. So I'm going to up my speed a little bit. I'm going to bring this end down until I get the thickness, the wall thickness that I want. I don't want much because here again I'm trying to make it as light as possible. That's about a 1/16 of an inch, so that's where I'm going to stop there. And just to create a flat spot, I'm going to take a parting tool and just create a flat here. That is going to be my locator when it goes into the cap. So let's finish up the shape on the outside here. Again, there is no right or wrong shape, because every mushroom is different. Exactly, somewhere along the line I remember reading an article about a number of different style mushrooms in the world, and there's a whole bunch. So you can make it whatever you want and it'll work. So that establishes my bottom. I'm going to roll that over a little bit. I'm going to make this diameter just a little smaller. Just trying to create a little bit more of a round shape to that bottom. That easy. That little sanding and that baby's done. Again, I tend to slow down a little bit for sanding. I find that if I sand too fast, it generates a lot of heat. And heat's not usually a good thing when it comes to working with wood. And you don't have to get real carried away with the sanding, because again, we're working with something that's of nature, and you don't need to get carried away with it. I'm going to sand a little bit with the grain just to get some of the sanding marks out, but I'm not going to be going to 400 grit or anything like that. This is 150, and I'm just cleaning that up a little bit. That's the stem. Now I'm going to part it off, and we'll finish the bottom on it. There is the stem. Alright, so I cut the stem of the mushroom off, and I moved the block out a little bit because it was in too close to the jaws, and I'm going to use that to make a little jam chuck. Hopefully it's going to come out to the right size, and I can put this on to hold it, and just to clean up this back bottom side. You know, the cutoff tool and everything, it's kind of scabby looking. So we're going to try and put a little tenon on there and see how it works. Now when I do a jam chuck or something like this on something small, I use a tool, if you're not familiar with it, it's called a banan. It's about 3/8 wide, it's actually 10 millimeter, which is about 3/8. And you can put a nice little square tenon on there, remove material fairly quickly. But you can do it however you're comfortable doing this. Feel free to go ahead. I'm going to get down close. I'm going to take a measurement, and then I'm going to get something that makes my life a lot easier. I wish I had it over here, but give me 1 second, I'll go grab it. I am a big fan of using vernier calipers when I'm measuring something that I want to be pretty accurate. As most of you probably know, I spent my life as a machinist, so I tend to think along those lines. And it helps me to get, most times, it helps me to get a fairly good fit on something like this, which is what you're shooting for. So I've got a hole in here that's measuring 7/10. I think that was a metric drill I ended up using. And I'm at 1 inch right now, so we've got a little bit to go. And about right there, we'll take another check and see where we are. I can still tell that I'm big. Yep. About 100 thousandths over what I want to be. Let's try that. I still think I'm big, and I'd rather be too big than too small. You can always take more off, but it's a stinker to add more to it. And I'm only doing about half the tenon, so that if I do mess up, I can just lob it off and be done with it and start over. And I did go a little bit under, but that's not too bad. So I'm going to use that as my guide and try and get this a little tighter up here. Make it a little deeper. Let's see what that does for us. Alright, we're still a little bit. That's okay. Not much, about 10 thousandths of an inch. Just a skosh more. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. A nice tight fit. Should hold it well enough for me to finish that bottom off. I'm going to go back to my detail gouge and just clean that bottom up. I think I'm a little low on the tool wrist. Yep. Try that. Yeah, I'm too high. Let's try that. Over just a skosh more. See if we can do that without having it pop off. Yeah, I like that better. And then we'll just kind of relieve the bottom. Just so that, for some reason, if you wanted it to sit on a table or something, it would sit flat by taking that center out. Okay, so I'm going to sand that up a little bit on the bottom. Okay, so I've sanded it all up. The stem is complete. You can see it's got the 2 little holes. And what I suggest you try and do is get a nice flowing shape. You don't want sharp angles and things. Just kind of flows into itself. kind of like nature does. There's no sharp corners in nature, as they say. So, stem is completed. Okay, so we've got the stem completed. Now we're going to make the cap, and again, it's whatever you've got around for wood. So what I'm gonna make the cap out of for this mushroom, I've decided, is I have a piece of, actually this is hawthorn, that great guy in the club by the name of Michael Peters gave me a piece not too long ago, and this is a cutoff from a bowl that I made out of that piece of wood. So that's going to be the cap that we're going to try and make today. Okay, so we had a little mishap with the first cap. I'm going to attempt to do another one and make sure I don't drill the hole as deep as I did the last time. As I explained, I think in the beginning, this is a piece of hawthorn that Michael Peters had given me. It's a cutoff from a bowl. So again, there's a good example of something you can do with your cutoffs. If and when you make a big bowl and you have a decent cutoff, you can use it for a cap on your mushroom. So I'm gonna rough this down. It's a lot bigger than I want it to be. I'm gonna rough it down, get it down to a workable size. It's got some checks in it. I want to make sure I get rid of those. And then we'll start shaping it, get the hole drilled, and pretend like the other one never even existed. So here we go. We're gonna start her up. I'm going to use a bowl gouge. I've got a 5/8 bowl gouge, so I'm going to use that just to get the material off. Just want to give myself enough room to work in here. Without wasting any wood. Yep. This is a Thompson gouge that Joe has convinced me that I should have a 40/40 grind on, and I have it, and it's different than a typical bowl gouge. So, but I'm getting used to it. I kind of like it. I'm not sure I'm ready to change all my gouges over, but I kind of like that one. All right, let's get this side flat and cleaned up, and then we'll get the hole in again, and then we'll hopefully get the outside shape. Tool rest just a little high, drop it down so it doesn't do that. I'm going to shape the inside now. Even though I'm going to take a lot more off of that diameter. Come on. Come on. Alright. We'll set that over there. We'll go back to the tailstock and we'll get a hole in there. And we're going to measure that hole to make sure the inside doesn't exceed the outside. First time I ever heard somebody say that about the inside exceeding the outside. I had to think for a second, what the hell are they talking about? And then it dawned on me they meant that the inside was a larger diameter than the outside. Okay, so let's take a measurement again and see where we are. See about how far we want to go. Again, I'm going to try and shoot for about an 1¼ inch high cap. So this time I'm going to put a mark on my drill. And I'm going to drill that about 1 inch. And that inch is going to be right about there. So this time, we're probably going to have too much material in there, but that's okay. Get the drill in, slow it down. Wobbling around a little bit, but that's all right, we're not going deep. Nobody will ever know. There we go. Okay, I'm going to leave the drill in the chuck so that if I need it again, I'll have it all set up. Sometimes it seems as though when you put everything away after you're done using it, something bad goes on and you have to dig it all back out again. Okay, one of the things I wanted to point out too is a real little thing that I always like to keep the tailstock quill, the taper, clean. I don't like to get shavings in there, but if you don't want to leave a chuck or a live center in there, it gets in your way. I found these little 1.25 1.5 diameter magnets, and you can put that right over the quill, over the taper, and it'll keep junk from getting in there. So that's your little tip for the day. All right, let's do some fine work on this bottom. It's a little deeper than I wanted it to be. I'm going to go to the 3/8 bowl gouge to do that, and I'm done with the big gouge, I think. Just going to clean that up. I kind of like that. Pretty happy with that. Let's do the counter bore. Let's put this tool back. And we're going to do the counter bore to fit the diameter on that stem. If I can find the little, there it is. And I think I'll measure that again because I've forgotten what it was. I think it's just under 7/8, which it is. Okay. Perfect. Gonna raise my tool rest just a skosh, and we're gonna go in about 1/8 of an inch. And we're gonna stop there and take a measurement because I think I'm pretty close. Hopefully I didn't go too big. Nope, I didn't, fortunately. All right. We've got about 30 thousandths more, so that's a 1/64 of an inch on each side. So I'm going to eyeball it and just take a little cut. Oh, so close. Just a skosh. Let's see what that looks like. I think that's going to be pretty close to where I want to be. Yep. All right, let's see if that stem fits. Oh yeah, that's perfect. That is, well, did I say it? That's perfect. Okay, I lost my train of thought. Okay, let's get rid of these. We don't need those anymore, hopefully. Put this back where it's supposed to be so the next time I need it, I know where it is. And we're going to do some shaping. Let's, again, double check that hole depth. We're in about 1 inch and a little over 1 1/8 inches, which puts me right about there. So my top of my cap is going to be about right there. Let's do this. And see if we can get something that looks pleasing. I'm going to go back to my bowl gouge, my 3/8 bowl gouge, and shape the outside. Oh, before I do that, let's, where am I at with my diameter? That's a little bigger than I think I want it. So let's just kind of eyeball the cap up there and see. Yeah, I think that's a little too big. So let's bring that down a little bit. We're at about 2 7/8. I'm going to bring it down to 2.5. See what we got. we're just a skinch over 2.5. So that's where I want to be. All right. So let's shape something that's going to be pleasing. And again, I want to get as much weight off as I can, so I want this to be fairly thin. Yep, watch that shoulder. Look at that. Look at that. Okay, let's just see where we're at here. That's going to be right about there. All right, that's good. That's good. Okay, a little more shaping. Then we'll cut it off and finish it on a gym truck. We've got a fair amount of meat here that's just going to add weight. I'm going to take a little bit more of this off. You know, I'm trying to balance the weight with the aesthetics of it. And I think that's pretty close to being where I want it to be, looks-wise. Double check. Double check. Perfect. Okay. Let's part down in there. And let's part down in there, and then I'll do a little more shaping, and then we'll cut it off and finish it up. Let's do this. That might the only thing that might cause me a problem is I think there's still a little bit of moisture in this wood. I can feel it, you know, in the shavings as they're coming off. But it's a mushroom, they're always supposed to be wet. Okay, let's go back and put the wood down and see if we can get some shape to this. Okay, I think we're pretty near where we want to be as far as, oh yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. All right, I'm going to cut it off, remove it, put a jam, actually I've got enough stock in the chuck that I can probably use that as my jam chuck. I'm a little high with my tail, my tool rest. Let's lower that just a scope. Just a little bit more of that out of there. Perfect. Almost like it grew there. Okay, so let's, I'll get set up to put the jam chuck, and we'll finish that shape. We'll shape this time without cutting through. I don't want to cut through, but I don't want to leave a lot of extra up there either, because we just, again, I want to get that weight off. My hole's about 1 1/8 inches. The top of my piece is about 1 1/4 inches. That my friends, is exactly what I wanted it to do. Okay, so we got that off of there. Got the shape. Let's get the little nub off the end. Hopefully it'll stay there while I do that. And we're ready for assembly. Well, we got to drill the hole for the eye screw. Just a little bit more there. There's a little step right there. And I want to just roll that in a little bit more. Create a little bit of a flat there. Help the drill seat itself. All right. Yeah, actually, just a skosh more. I want to get rid of it. See a little high spot right there. A little bit of a nub on the end there. Let's get rid of that. A little high with my tool rest, but that's okay. All right, I'm going to run some sandpaper over that. Clean up some of the imperfections. I think I'll get another piece of paper that we can beat up. A piece of 120 we'll do with that, and then we'll hit it with 220 and that'll be it. Now let's slow it down, Skosh. About there, I guess. It's 120, we'll hit it with some 220 and then we'll see what it looks like. If there's no major sanding scratches, we'll let it go. Well, I'd say it looks pretty good. I'm going to just sand just a skosh more. I'm going to reverse my spindle. I don't know if it makes a lot of difference when you reverse the spindle, but I've gotten in the habit of trying to do that, and in my mind it seems to help. So, you know the old saying, my lathe, my rules. Okay. Boy, that's a nice soft piece of wood. Come right over here, Mr. Cameraman. Just feel how soft that piece of wood is.
Oh yeah.
That's something.
That's something.
That's crazy. All right, kiddos. That's all I'm going to do sanding wise. I'm going to get my eye screw and find out what size drill I need to pop a hole in there. It's another thing that the calipers come in handy with. So I'm going to measure this little thread. I mean, obviously everybody knows on an eye screw you got threads. And if you can kind of measure down at the bottom of the thread, it's measuring just over a 1/16 of an inch. So I'm going to drill a 1/16 inch hole, and this will slide in there, but it'll leave enough wood for the threads to grab. So if you just try to stuff the eye screw in there without drilling a hole, all bad things can happen. So by putting a hole in a pilot hole in there, you're going to be a lot better off. What did I do with the tail star? I mean the chuck. I put it over here because I left the drill set up so that if I had to use it again, and now unfortunately I don't have to use it again, so we can take that drill out. If I can find the chuck key, which usually goes back in the chuck so I know where it is. Wow, isn't that something? That's awful. I don't know what I did with it, but we'll use the other drill chuck. And we won't have to worry about it. Let's get this drill chuck in, put a sleeve on it. Oh, there it is, I see it, but that's all right. We'll use the small chuck anyway. Probably better suited for a small drill like what we're gonna use. It's a 16th inch drill. And I'm just gonna, bring that up. Yep, got it running backwards. It won't drill very well at all if I do that. So, okay, we'll get it going the right way. And I'm drilling about 800 RPM. I'm going to hold the drill just to help steady it a little bit. I'm drilling fairly slow, as you can see. I just want to get the hole in there fairly straight, which it is going. Clear the drill. Clear the drill. And that's probably deep enough. Pop that out of there. We'll take the eye screw. It's too big. That's all right. We'll fix that with super glue. Why that drill too big? I don't know. Doesn't matter. It'll work. Now all I gotta do is get this off because I've got it on there. Wicked tight. There it comes. There it comes. Okay. So there's our cap. Here's our stem. And there's the mushroom. There's the mushroom. So we'll glue I drilled that a little bit too big. I don't know why. I grabbed the 16th drill. I have a feeling that's not a 16th. But that's my mistake. No big deal. We'll glue that in. We'll glue this together. And then we'll take the toothpick and we'll make it, cut it to fit. We'll color it and that'll be it. Okay, so I'm going to make the perch. I just took a round toothpick, I cut it in half, and it simply is going to get glued in like that. I rounded off, I cut it in half and then just sanded up the edge, the end, so that it's clean. There's no burr, but I didn't bother sanding that. We'll put a little drop of CA glue on there, we'll glue that in, and actually, before we do that, I'm going to color this. You can leave it natural. It doesn't matter. You can color it any color you want. I'm going to color this one green, just because. So I try to color it so that when it goes in, it's all colored, but you don't really need to color the whole thing. And I'm going to do the coloring with just some artist markers. You can dye it, paint it, whatever you want to do. I found that the markers seem to work pretty good, and it's such a small area. So I actually think I'll use that green. And I'm just going to take the marker and do this. Color it. Could be red, could be blue, be black. It can be left natural. It's whatever you want your little bird to perch on. So now, when that goes in, it's colored. Is that in camera?
Yep.
Okay. So, kind of cool looking. So let's get a drop of glue on there. Glue to put the two pieces of the cap and the stem together, but we'll use a CA glue to hold this in. Maybe. Let that sap down in there a little bit. Presto logic. There's the stem line. Then we'll take the cap, which is over here. We'll get some regular old glue. You can use, everybody's got their own preference on glues. I still use Titebond 2. But I recently was given a gallon of Titebond 3, so when my Titebond 2 runs out, I will be switching over to Titebond 3 probably, for a while anyway. And somebody, I remember somebody in the club mentioning that they like Titebond 2 for some reason, and I don't remember what it was. That's always stuck in my mind, so I just put a little dabble do ya. And I'm going to roll it around a little bit. Now I want to position it so that this sapwood is, oh no, heartwood, I'm sorry, you know, it's in the front, kind of like that. So let's put that right there. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the mushroom Christmas tree ornament. All you need to do to hang it is feed some fishing line through there as long as you want it to be, and it'll hang on your Christmas tree and hopefully bring many years of joy to you and your family. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it, and we'll see you soon.